Hello, my name is Andre and I want to tell you the truth. You deserve the truth, okay, about all things paranormal. Right, let's get down to, let's look at our friends from out of town. Now I'm just going to switch to this view here. I'm just going to play this video that I think is really quite amazing. It's a video that was taken, I suspect, about sort of 40, 50 years ago. And it is really the only alien interview that hasn't been debunked. It's considered genuine footage. It's considered genuine. As I say, no one's been able to manage to debunk it. It's probably famous in the sense that it's the only one that hasn't really been debunked. All the evidence suggests that these aliens have been here for tens of thousands of years, maybe even hundreds of thousands of years. There's actually some proof to say they've been here for millions of years. But the fact is they're still here. They call the Earth home, and they don't actually have a name. That's how they keep themselves to themselves. They don't actually have a name, but we call them ultra-terrestrials. This is an alien, ultra-terrestrial, using the care of a certain American national security institution, and he's been lightly interrogated. He's obviously physically restrained, and he's not doing any talking. He doesn't need to, because he is able to communicate with the four interrogators that are sitting behind him, and he's not coping very well. In this video, you see that his health is actually steadily declining, and when you catch glimpses of his head and his body, you might be thinking it's a man in a mask, but it really isn't, because the neck is, I say, too small. And the green thing that's sort of blipping up and down, that's just to monitor his heartbeat, and you'll see that is going up as he becomes more and more distressed. And in the video that I got this from, there's actually somebody who used to be one of those four people narrating, well after the event, talking about what the situation was. So we know what the situation was, and how this alien is getting ill. It's a shame they didn't give a name to him, really. But he's sort of going downhill. Don't know why. It's not very clear as to why he's going downhill. To me, it looks like he's sort of suffocating, but he's in the right atmosphere. Perhaps he just doesn't like being interrogated. That's the obvious thing. And in a minute, you're going to get people come up to him trying to administer medical help, although it's not clear if they are successful, because it doesn't. The video, it cuts sort of soon afterwards. But notice his eyes. He's got very big black eyes, forward facing. This alien is, flesh and blood. Here come the medical team. They're just checking he's not choking on something. Notice how realistic his eyes and his face is. To pull this off as a fake, it would take a lot of effort, I think, back then. It doesn't look particularly fake to me if you get past the fact that an alien is being interrogated. And he's clearly unwell, so the video sort of finishes in a minute. So remember the eyes, remember the skull. It's a bigger brain. Okay, it's a bigger brain. It's a slightly smaller body. As we know from Earth animals, the bigger the brain, the smaller the body, can lead to higher intelligence. There's no doubt in my mind these beings are highly intelligent, most likely more intelligent than us. But they live underground, live in very dark places. Their big eyes would suggest that they'd be, I guess, predatorial in some nature. From Earth, animals that have eyes on the side are usually the prey, and animals that have eyes in the front are normally a predator of some type. And we'll go into a bit more about their biology a bit later. Right, let me show you another video. This is a video of much more recent video, I suspect only a few months old, showing the same creature. This is about 50 years later, 40, 50 years later. And it's not clear what he's digging up. I don't quite understand why what he's digging up is like blurred. Is that even more scary than an alien digging in the wood? Let's just play that again. So he's uncovering something. It looks like he's not wearing any clothes, and this is an issue that I have here. And his face, his skull, very similar to the alien we saw being interviewed, interrogated, just a minute ago. But his nose seems more flat, seems blunter. Is this just the difference between individual aliens, or is this a slightly different alien, or is it fake? I mean, these days, AI can produce something nearly as good as that, and before long it would be as good as that. So we can't rule out for that video. I'll play it again anyway. But we can't rule out this is not AI. AI can do this. It's just a question of has it done it? Okay, but again, this is very illustrative of what they actually look like from other images and photos and experiments and stuff like that. So let's go on to the next one. Is just a photo. So that's scary, isn't it? I mean, it's scary in the sense that I don't know if I'd want to meet that in the dark wood at night. But there's no particular evidence that they are dangerous to us if we were cornered by one. From a physical point of view, they look slightly weaker than a typical human. So in a fist fight, it could be that we would win. But again, they're more intelligent. So what they're trying to do is avoid situations where they could be physically overwhelmed. And because of their anatomy, it could be one of the reasons why they live underground, because they've evolved not as the prime predator in the food chain. They kind of maybe their home planet, they weren't top dog, and they had to develop being hidden, and developed the anatomy suitable for living underground. And yet the anatomy required to build spaceships and travel between the stars. So again, look at those dark eyes. It's not clear to me whether the eye is that black, or whether they're wearing some sort of giant sort of in situ shade, because if they're really sensitive to light, they may have to sort of wear these sort of in situ shades. So I don't know whether that is the case or not, but just take a look at that sort of skin. It's kind of well, it looks sort of oily, leathery almost. But the thing that really perplexes me is why they wear no clothes. I mean, they're super intelligent, and yet of all the videos and images I've seen of them, none of them are wearing clothes. And why is this? It's very strange. I mean, even if they were living in their caves and cabins and they had everything perfect, they just didn't need to wear clothes, you'd think that they would have something that they would wear when coming out at night. Bear in mind that woods and the outside world, depending where you are on the planet Earth and at what time you're out there, can vary between -50 and +40. So I don't know why they don't wear clothes. No, that could be the skeptics amongst you might go, aha, that means the whole thing is utterly fake. Well, I'm not convinced that is the smoking gun of fakery, but it is definitely a puzzle. Okay. Right, so we've met them now. Okay, and if I find any more, I'll be showing you them in later episodes as well. Now then, this is a video of their some of their abilities to cloak and to remain hidden. You can see sort of slightly sort of 2/3 to the left of the screen, you can see what looks like a cloaked creature sort of stepping down from a higher up place and just sort of dropping down, and it looks cloaked. Now this video was from a Sasquatch video, sort of proof that Sasquatch can turn invisible. But I personally believe this is our friendly ultra-terrestrial, also cloaking. And this is my second big question to myself: is can they cloak, like, are they able to cloak just by thought alone? You know, this is dangerous, I'm going to cloak. Or is it some sort of technology that they're wearing? See, if all the videos I've seen of these ultra terrestrials, none of them are wearing anything. They're not wearing any device like a watch or technology that I can see. Either it's technology that's inside them, or they are just biologically capable of cloaking. And I've given a lot of thought to how this could actually be the case, but of course I'm not a biologist, and I'm at the limit of my knowledge of science. I was educated in physics and science, but obviously that is just the known science, and it's not really it's not easy to know the unknown unless somebody's going to know it first and tell you about it. That it takes a very special person to actually discover new physics, and I don't think I'm one of those. So this is kind of where we need to put our heads together. We need universities in particular to take alien technology and other dimensional physics seriously, because it's not that we know that there's 13 different dimensions in our physics. We can prove that with string theory. So we know there's 13 dimensions out there, but we know so little about them. We know so little about how or whether you can live in those dimensions, or whether other things can live in those dimensions. We know so little about what would it look like to us if somebody visited from those other dimensions. There's so many questions that really academics and universities should be studying, but because of the stigma about UFOs and aliens, they're just not. Right, let's get on to the next video. Now then, this is a map of the US, stating the obvious. Now there was this guy, I shouldn't really have made note of his name. He's written a book called 411 Missing People. Okay, just Google it. He's a nice guy. He's sort of getting into the sort of Sasquatch arena, because he's sort of, I suppose, implying that Sasquatch have aided the missing of 411 missing people. Now, these missing people, obviously a lot of people go missing, but these missing people disappeared in very specific locations in a very strange way, as in no trace of them, no trace of anything they were wearing, just vanished. Okay, this was what makes it so unusual. And he's done a lot of work to collate this information, put it on a map. Now, unfortunately, I could not find the equivalent map of the UK. I'm from the UK, as you probably guessed, and I can't find a similar thing for the UK. When I'm searching missing people in the UK, only sort of distills the information down per county or per region, like the southeast, northwest. But there's no data that I can find that actually sort of puts dots on the map where people went missing, because that would be quite interesting to see the hot points. But in the UK, it seems to correlate more to population density, which is maybe no surprise that missing people are more likely to go missing where there's more people living, which is different to this. These are very remote areas where people are going missing. So again, some of you might have already investigated this and you might know the answer, but I suspect that this is actually a map of where the aliens, our friends from out of town, the ultra-terrestrials, are living. Okay, and they're living underground. They seem to be able to vanish anyway. So you could argue, why do they need to live underground if you can't see them half the time? Well, I guess they, with their dark eyes, their massive eyes, their skin, to me, they look like an underground creature. So they've got their caverns, their tunnels in these locations. I don't even think that they need an entrance to those caves. If they have an entrance, it could be cloaked itself, so you can't see it. And the thinking is that, and this I'm I'm not dressing up as the truth, okay? We've gone from the truth to speculation at this point. But the idea is that these people have gone missing when they stumbled upon these entrances, and rather than be allowed to go back home and tell their friends and stuff about these weird cloaked entrances, they've been eliminated in some way. Okay. Now this goes back to, what do these ultra-terrestrials eat? Okay. Now if you noticed, they don't have big fangs. They're not like a saber-toothed tiger. They don't seem equipped around their mouth to eat or tear at meat or chew big things. They have very small mouths. It's not clear to me whether they have teeth. So it would seem unlikely that they would sort of hunt something as large as us, but it's not clear what they eat. And they're biological creatures. They must eat. So that's a puzzle too. What do they eat? And if they live underground, the depth they're living, you probably don't get worms or anything like that. So they're having to sort of harvest their own meat. Having to harvest their own food, the ground underneath. Maybe they eat mushrooms. I don't know. Anecdotally, a lot of these aliens seem to like their food liquidized, like sort of soups or like protein broths. But how that happened, how they've evolved for that, I don't know. Again, it's an area that it seems to me that a lot more research needs to be made on that. So that's the interesting one for the US. Now, we're going to move on to their technology, because this is now coming back to fact, okay? This is the truth, okay? Whether you believe these aliens exist or not, I can imagine your skepticism, but your skepticism is not required for their technology, which is very, very, very easy to prove and has been seen by hundreds of thousands of people around the world. And they've been seen a lot more, and I know exactly why that is the case. Okay, so that's something to cling on to for the next few minutes. But broadly speaking, their technology comprises superficially of a silver round spherical ball. Okay, and they come in three sizes, and they do sort of three different things. Okay, they are technology, alien technology, that we believe is being driven by alien AI. Okay, well, that's another big pill for you to have to swallow. If you can't believe in aliens, then how on earth am I going to get you to believe in alien AI? Well, alien AI might outlast biological creatures by tens of billions of years. It's quite possible that there's the galaxy is full of roaming alien AIs with the originators long since snuffed it. So that's one aspect of why actually alien AI we might meet that more often than aliens themselves. But this we believe is alien AI that is ultimately controlled by our friends from out of town. Now on the right hand side is the smallest one, what we call the type 3 type orb, and this is what lives in houses. Okay, now I can't talk about this and not help promote a superb book that I read recently that talks all about this. Okay, now it's called The Sphere Network, and I'm just going to put the QR code in the corner here. You can buy it from Amazon, and the author Patrick Jackson is just the most amazing guy that I hope very much to have on this channel at some point. But he's a British guy who has really spearheaded this whole aspect of this AI research. And I'm going to be touching upon it, but if you want to be happily convinced that it's all real, then do buy his book. You could probably do with the money as well, for reasons I'll go into a bit later. But it's a superb book, probably one of the best books I've ever read in terms of, wow, this is new stuff, amazing, full of evidence and fact. So do buy it. I don't get paid to sell his book, by the way. I'm just telling you that if you want to go down the rabbit hole, there's no better companion than the Sphere Network. Okay, so in his book he talks about these three different types of orbs. Okay, now on the right hand one is that's the small one, so it's about the size of a baseball, tennis ball. It is in any haunted house. Okay, this is where alien technology and ghosts mix really well together. And again, I've probably lost some of you already. You probably, a couple of you probably shut the video down, stormed out of your lounge because you're thinking, well, hang on a minute. He's just segued from UFOs to ghosts. Is he nuts? Has he lost it? Well, bear with me. Okay, so you've got this little tennis ball. If it was just unexposed, if it was exposed, it just looked like a round spherical ball hovering. You can move around. Okay, so you can go through walls, and we'll investigate that technology probably in the next episode. But these type 3 ones are normally invisible to the naked eye. Okay, very rarely have they been spotted visually in a haunted house, but they are very prominent in the infrared, and we'll show you some evidence of that. They appear as black in the infrared. And this, I think, this right-hand picture is it's an infrared image. Now, the one to the left, this is a type 2 orb. Okay. Now, generally, this is a silver ball. Uses very similar technology to the type 3. These are sort of football size orbs. They hover around, above the fields, above the treetops, but they are quite low, so they often are very much in our eye line. These are the ones that are seen the most, because they're sort of in our eye line. You see them above the trees or flying over your head, like 20 meters up, that sort of thing. And they, in their sort of default mode, in their lazy mode, they are just silver balls, nothing else, just a silver spherical ball. But they are capable of so much more. They can go invisible. They can present themselves as any shape of object. They can morph into any object you can possibly think of. And they are the greatest I can't say the word mimicry of anything I know. They can copy other things and set about looking like them. Okay, and they can change whilst you look, and they can morph, and very clever stuff. But in their lazy state, they are just floating silver balls. And my wife's seen one. We see them quite a bit because we're near a famous air show, a venue for a famous air show every 2 years. And air shows really trigger these off, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So that's your type 1 and type 2. This is a video that Patrick Jackson has done this is again filmed in infrared. I'll play that again. Now, so he's in a haunted house. I think it's 30 East Drive, the most haunted house in the UK. And he's doing an infrared video here of what looks like an orb is just appearing out of thin air in infrared. Again, visually it's invisible. And this is what it looks like. I'll just play that again. Now, right, so the arrow is kind of indicating where it is. So you look like a black dot. It's actually a black spherical object, and it's sort of peering, and then sort of whizzing past and out. I assume it's coming out of leaving the room through the door. It doesn't literally need to go through the door. It can go through walls. And again, this can, using the same technology as type 2, this can mimic, if it wants to, visually anything it wants to. And this is where we get into the fact that it can mimic ghosts, it can mimic little girls, it can mimic shadows, it can mimic just about anything. But because it's AI, it kind of needs to learn it first. It needs to see it in reality to be able to copy it. So it can't get like completely creative. It has to be something that it's seen before, which explains really why most ghosts are somehow they're familiar. So a lot of people think, oh, that's my deceased granddad coming back. Well, it may be that it's literally just copied your granddad when he was alive, and it's maybe not copied it greatly. It's not the perfect match, but it's enough. There's enough characteristics about how your granddad used to walk or move that it's mimicked. And so this is why it looks somehow familiar. And if it's copied a girl or your old deceased dog, whatever, it's because it's tried its best to copy it. And in fact, there's lots of evidence. Again, Patrick Jackson has done a great job in being able to, where the type 3 has recorded a voice from a person who's then later died, and then it's replaying this voice, trying to mimic the person or the animal. And when you do a recording of it, you can actually prove that it is actually an audio recording of the thing it recorded. So it's not just, it's literally in an AI way, it has recorded that sound and then it's just playing it back. So this is incredible research. And again, my hat off to Patrick Jackson from leading the way on this amazing insight. So let's go on to the next one. Now this is a type 2 orb, sort of sitting in a cradle, and you've got somebody touching it there. I've got the audio turned off, but they're maintained. They can feel it vibrating. You can see it's wobbling. If I just play that again, you can see it's wobbling around. Now, I'm going to be honest with you here. There's a few things that trouble me about this whole thing. Okay, now these orbs are real. Okay, they're, my wife's seen them. Thousands of people have seen them. They're well recorded. Lots of videos of them fly around on YouTube. These things are real. That is probably real. But the fact is that in this particular video, it's quite obvious. If I just play it from the start, it's quite a windy day. It's quite a breezy day. And so I'm not totally convinced that is wobbling around, not due to the wind. Okay, and I've only got the person whose hand it belongs to say it's vibrating. So it's not overwhelmingly convincing as a video. But I've put this in because this is what they look like. It's a spherical ball. You could, I'm not saying you've got one of these in the house, but if you had one, if you went round to a friend and saw that in a cradle, you'd think, well, I don't know, is it a bowling ball? Is it something that they made at school? You wouldn't necessarily think, oh, that's alien technology. That's just a silver ball. And one of the things that puzzles me is that this one clearly, if it's real, has stopped working. It's not flying around. It's not doing its job. So it's broken in some way, and that's why it's there. It's kind of the leftovers. And we know that the alien AI system is more than capable of mopping up broken type 2s, type 3s, and presumably type 1s as well. And they've mopped up these things to replace them. And they're often video dropping new spherical type 1s, type 2s, and type 3s out of spacecraft. And these are so you have a spacecraft with lots of orbs flying out of it or dropping down out of it. That's replacing the ones that are broken. But quite how, and I'm guessing most of them are collected and recycled or repaired, but I guess some aren't, some are missed out, and they end up on people's verandas like this. But when you look at it, it's very sort of bashed up, it's scuffed. Now, how much of that is because somebody's been rolling around using it as a bowling ball for much of its life since it was in human hands, or whether that's how it appeared on a field one day, I don't know. It looks like it's lived a rough life, if you ask me. So that's a type 2. This is a type 2 in action. So this was filmed, I believe, over Iraq or somewhere in the Middle East. This US autonomous vehicle, I think it might have been a Predator drone, captured this type 2 just flying around, and it's got no obvious means of propulsion. It's not a balloon, it's flying against the wind. And this is what a lot of the type 2s do look like. And if you keep your eyes open, you will spot one eventually, just drifting around, not looking particularly threatening. This is one I saw, a type 2, flying over my estate. Now you're thinking, it doesn't look like a round ball to me. That looks like some sort of flying filing cabinet. It's about the size, about 2-3 meters high, 1.5 meters wide. Flying filing cabinet is how I describe it. And it was going against the wind, and it was very low. It didn't appear on flight radar 24. It was a commercial drone, it's flying in controlled airspace, and it should have had a transponder on, and it didn't appear as a rested aircraft. Also, notice how it's starting to shrink now. To me, it's just uncanny how small it's getting, and then it will get bigger again, even though it's not obviously moving away from me. It's kind of it's like changing shape, not changing distance. And this is where sort of mimicry comes into it. It's adapting its visual look to me, and there it goes, just drifting away. So that is unusual. That's not a plane. It's not a drone. It's not a balloon. So kind of, what is it? Now, that in itself is not proof of alien life or UFOs. I get that. But it's just very uncanny. And again, when you look up drone types, there's not one that really fits the description of a flying filing cabinet. There are some specialist drones out there that do specialist things, but generally, when you're in controlled airspace, they should all have a transponder on if they're over a certain weight. But this is a close-up, sorry, beg your pardon, close-up of the same flying filing cabinet. Got like two things sticking out, but again, doesn't look quite right. And that's another little clue about when these Type 2s do their mimicries. It's like an uncanny valley about it. It's not quite right. So yeah, it's just unusual. And again, if you just watch this, it will sort of get smaller in a slightly unusual way. It's not really just, it's not turning. It's kind of just shrinking, and then it sort of grows back. So very unusual. And the Type 2s are capable of just appearing. I've seen it with my own eyes. They can change from an orb to a plane, and then back to an orb again. And you think, well, how is that even possible? How? And of course, we don't really know how that is possible. How a ball can change into an airplane and change back kind of defies our understanding of physics at the moment. Right. This is a very exciting one. So first of all, I haven't really explained what these orbs are doing. So they're alien AI orbs, and we think that the aliens that I showed you earlier designed this alien AI system. Now, there's just a chance they didn't actually make it, but they certainly maintain it. Okay, and I think they did make it, but there's reasons I'll go into in later episodes, which I'm not convinced they actually created it in the first place, but they certainly own it now, and they control it, and they operate it. And this AI system is comprised of Type 1s, Type 2s, but Type 3s, but it's fundamentally there to protect them, these ultra-terrestrials, from attack from other aliens. Okay, now probably I've lost a few more people. They've walked out the road and go, this is unbelievable. First you're telling me there's aliens on the Earth, and then you're telling me they're not the ones we need to watch. That's true. From their perspective, that's certainly true. They really don't want other aliens getting established on this planet. Now, we're sort of the happy benefactors of this, because we don't really want other aliens to sort of arrive on this planet. So they're kind of defending the Earth. We're benefiting from it, but make no mistake, it's primarily for their protection. Okay, and this system works really well. And again, Patrick Jackson in his book, The Sphere Network, really goes to town explaining how all this works. But in essence, if you are defending a planet from attack from outside the planet, what you don't want as your communication system is a space-based communication system. So having satellites orbiting the Earth would be the first thing that an alien invasion would take out, and thus render your communication network null and void. So the network is actually just a network of Type 3s that exist on ground level or just underground level. And these form, if you plot the locations of, say, haunted houses in the UK, you very quickly build up a network that looks like some sort of, mobile phone network. You have these nodes. And the Type 2s sort of act as relay stations, relaying data between these Type 3 nodes, relaying them over mountains or over expanses of ocean. And their job is to communicate also to the type 1s, which are larger spheres about beach ball size that are normally found in the higher to mid altitude. So they're usually very high up, usually sort of in the stratosphere, but can come down to sort of where planes fly and stuff like that. And they're all working together to destroy UFOs which are coming into our atmosphere. Okay, so it's a defense system, largely automated, but at some point it is either monitored or guided by the aliens, the extraterrestrials, or it's completely autonomous, but we just don't know. So you might be thinking, well, where's the evidence of these orb network actually taking out UFOs? Okay, and this is one piece of tantalizing evidence. Okay, so we got here, this is being filmed by an amateur astronomer who thinks he is looking at a planet. Okay, and this is the result of an attack by one of these orbs. So let me just start it at this start again. So if I just pause it there, he thinks this is a planet. He's most intrigued by this other little white dot that is sort of going around it. Okay, if I just play it for a bit, you can see there's this other thing sort of going around it. Okay, and he thinks he doesn't know what he's looking at. He thinks he's looking at a planet or star, and it's this thing going around it. So then I presume he gets distracted. He's filming this with his mobile phone pressed against the eyepiece of the telescope. And I guess he's pulled away to actually look at the planet or the star with his own eyes to try and understand what he's looking at. And then he's gone back with his phone up to the eyepiece of the telescope and he sees this. Okay. Now, it's not a planet, obviously, it's some sort of craft that's just been destroyed. You can tell that from all the debris. And the thing that was sort of orbiting around it is split into two. And it's mysterious, isn't it? But this kind of backs up the idea that this type 1 or even type 2 orb has just destroyed an incoming UFO or other aliens, okay? Or indeed other alien AI. So nothing like a rocket explosion, is there? But look, do you see that type? Now, I've raised my hand here, as in I don't know whether it's type 2 or type 1 orb. If I play that again, okay, bang, the rocket blows up. But I'm going to pause it here. Let's just get the red. That's it. Right. So in that circle there, that's a type 1, type 2. It's moving really fast, okay? It'd be difficult to... I mean, this is very controlled airspace, so it's fair to say that this is probably not a drone or a missile. And you can see that it's not actually hitting the rocket. It's just going really close to it. So the thing it's fired could be something as simple as a microwave, high energy beam, or something. You don't know. Right, so you might be thinking, if you're flying at 36,000 feet, what can you possibly hit that's going to do this much damage to an aircraft? Well, this is exactly what this passenger jet suffered from. It, by the description of the pilots, it slammed into a big silver ball at 36,000 feet. It obviously damaged the plane. It had to make an emergency landing. Could have been far worse. I have suspicions that the type 1 ball was desperately trying to get out of the way, and it just didn't make it. It got hit. And whether that type 1 sphere carried on working or that it plummeted to the ground is a question I'd love to know the answer to. So, you know, but it really physically caused damage to this aircraft. And even more tantalizing would be it might have left some material on this aircraft. So it'd been lovely to had somebody had the foresight to do analysis on the materials, but we do have some idea what they're made out of. So there you go. That's what happens if you're 36,000 feet and you slam into one of these Type 1 orbs. And as you can imagine, the damage is very consistent with sort of beach ball type metal sphere. Right. So what happened there? Jumped. Right. Okay. This is up. Just pause this. Right. So you're thinking, wow, okay. So far, I'm not convinced. These three types of orbs flying around the Earth. Why have more people seen them? Well, as I say, hundreds of thousands of people have seen them. They are very, especially the Type 2s. If you live in a haunted house, you're sharing your house with a Type 3 orb, whether you're aware of it or not. And the Type 1s are quite hard to see. They're very high up. But if you're a pilot and you've seen like what looks like a big beach ball size metal sphere in the distance somewhere, then you've just spotted the Type 1. But they're not restricted just to the Earth. This defense mechanism seems to also extend out to the moon. And in fact, the clip I'm going to show you now is just some proof of these orbs. You got in this picture here, you've got three Type 1s in a triangle shape, taken from the moon by astronauts in Apollo 12. So I'll just play this video. Those are three Type 1s. They're not in orbit around the moon, they're just hovering there. Okay. And these are digitized slides, but I think, in fact, they appear in the real film as well as the digitized ones. But they are there for anyone to see. They're archived, and you can access the public archive for free. And there's many slides from Apollo 11, 12, and 17 that show these orbs and other UFOs around the moon. So they extend beyond the Earth, which makes sense, because if you're defending the Earth, you don't really want an alien species to establish themselves on the moon either, because then that's a bit too close for comfort. And there's even been UFOs photographed on Mars. It's not clear to me, because of the way that certain countries like to redact all the information, whether they are orbs or other UFOs. But I can tell you now, there's nothing really man-made flying around in the Mars atmosphere. So any big object you see hovering in Mars is, by definition, not ours. Now then, we're going to go from this alien AI technology to what it can do. Now, for the people that have tuned in expecting a few more ghost videos, then you're in luck now. This is the ghosty bit. And I want to really expand your mind in this, because again, this is true. This is actually happening. If you live in a haunted house, you've probably seen this yourself, and you're at a total loss as to what is going on. And that's something I think that mankind ought to discover more of. We don't have enough curious minds in the world. There's too many people who are just happy to either believe in what they're told, or they just don't want to expand their world anymore. They're very happy with their set of knowledge, and they don't want to learn anymore. Unsettles them. So I get that, but more people need to be curious, and particularly universities and funding, they need to get their act together, because this is all very interesting stuff. So this is a Type 3 orb in a haunted, I think it's a haunted office. And what you'll see here is how it can produce this like dark, looks like dark smoke, but it's not smoke, it's not black particles, it's something other than that. So if I just play the video, you can see that this Type 3 orb is sort of producing this sort of unsettlingly weird sort of black sort of thing in the air. This is what's loosely known as shadow people. But again, it's just mimicry. It's these type 3 orbs trying to mimic maybe somebody that lived there, maybe somebody who hasn't lived there, but they've tried copying them anyway. But it's the nature, it's the physics of what is happening here. Okay, it's one thing to try to mimic something, but how is it actually doing it? If we go back to the start, if I play that, right, so it just appears out of thin air. Now, we do know some things in science, okay? So to put something black in a volume of space, you could just fill it with black particles, smoke, soot, anything. But that would dissipate. It wouldn't dissipate instantly. It would sort of just get diffuse, and some of it would fall down to the ground. It would blow away as if it would look like smoke. It wouldn't just behave like we see here. The only other thing that we know in science that can create a black cloud effect is a big concentration of electrons. Now, in substances where there's a cloud of electrons, it just stops light from traveling through them. And if the electrons are bound up in, say, a crystalline structure, then light can just pass straight through. So that's sort of a basic of chemistry. So one option is that you've just got lots and lots of electrons in a small space, and that will just stop light from going through it. However, even the low-educated scientist would understand that if you put lots of electrons in one small space and everything else was unchanged, they would just repel each other from the electrical. There'd be an overwhelming negative charge in that volume of space, and they would just instantly pop, just diffuse, they would repel each other. So that would be very difficult to maintain. And if we play the video, there's no obvious sign of magnetic containment. It's not as if those electrons are following magnetic field lines particularly. So it's hard to see how, given our understanding of science, how you would keep that cloud of electrons so close together, and also how would you manipulate it to look like a figure, look like a human. So those are things that we need to discover. We need to put our best minds onto it. We need to take research seriously. Hopefully, if Donald Trump's promise follows through, and we release these files, these aliens and UFOs files, it becomes less of a stigma. Hopefully, some of our best and greatest academic institutions will start to take this seriously and start to fund research into this. And of course, it may have commercial spin-offs and military spin-offs as well, so it's not a waste of time. This is another sort of haunted house thing. You've got this like dark figure sticking what we would perceive as being its head out of behind the door, but this is in reality just another type 3 orb manipulating this dark cloud of stuff to mimic maybe somebody peering out from the door. And this brings me on to the point of the main thrust of this is, and this is dealt with by Patrick Jackson very well, is why? I mean, why are the? I mean, we know the orbs are ultimately defending the near Earth environment, but why do they set themselves up and then scare people? Well, the way that these type 3 orbs disseminate information, don't forget, ultimately globally, but certainly locally, is they're transmitting data. Okay, and this data can be intercepted between nodes, and you can actually see the data. Okay, we don't know what it's saying. That would take some serious decryption technology, even if that would work. We're dealing with advanced alien technology, so the very idea of encryption may have gone beyond that. But you're seeing this data, and it's in the form of microwaves. And it's very powerful microwaves, and they do short bursts, a bit like a mobile phone network, but a lot more powerful. Okay. And when these type 3s transmit, they really don't want humans anywhere near them, because they'll literally cook the human body and the human brain until that person dies. So they've, over the years, discovered what frightens us, not just us, but animals, other things that roam this planet. They've devised a system by which they can scare people off, which works 9 times out of 10. Okay, if you see a mysterious dark figure suddenly appear in front of you in your house, you're more likely going to run away. And they use other techniques like door slamming, scratching and stuff. So the idea is to get you away from the area, then they can do that transmission, which doesn't last very long, a few minutes, and then they're done. They're fine, they're finished for the day. Scary things disappear. If you're a brave one and you stay around, then you're likely to be blasted with very high energy microwaves and gamma rays, and that is going to damage your health. This is a fantastic video where this captures type 3 just producing a very localized dark cloud, and it illustrates how this person would have felt something like a tap on his shoulder, and it's enough to make him sort of jump out of his skin, as it would you and me, and he beats a hasty retreat. Okay, this is the technology behind type 3. Is they can mimic, they can capable of an awful lot of things. This one here, this is my absolute favorite. So you've got this is an example of type 3s being able to exert some sort of force. Now what I find interesting about this one is this video, I'm just going to pause it here. This video was started off as a very tame cat video. This woman was just doing a cat video with her cat, and then she heard something fall down upstairs, and I guess she lived in a haunted house. She may have already thought, well, I'm going to have to check that. So she ran upstairs, then things started happening, doors were slamming and stuff. She got spooked. She ran into her bedroom. She got out a pepper spray. All very authentic, I have to say. And I just taken the clip about the bed indents, because that's what really intrigued me. This is just a tiny part of the cat video, as it were. But one of the things that really interested me here is that she actually moves over the indents of the bed. So that tells you one thing straight away. It's not just in somebody, an invisible alien standing on their bed. Because she would have literally bowled him over in his cloaked form. It would have sent him flying. And so that straight away tells me it's not a person or an alien that's cloaked. And also, if I just play it again, so you can see the indents are happening. Okay. Now, if I pause it there, I think it'd be fair to say that if this happened to you or me, we'd be scared, very scared. And the only thing that could really duplicate this is if somebody was under the bed and they'd put some fishing wire up to the mattress and up to the duvet and up to the blanket, and then taken it over by about 6 inches and then put it back down to the duvet, to the mattress, and then they're just underneath tugging it. Okay. Would that give this effect? Well, probably not, because before it indents, there's no sign of any kind of fishing line. And also the fishing line would tend to sort of bow down, so you'd be pulling the fishing line with bow. But in this one, it's like a straight line, so it's not being tugged. It's something is above it pushing down. And we already know from where the woman has moved that it's not a physical thing sitting on the bed. So what's going on? I'll just play that a bit more. So the other thing that tells you it's not fishing line is when she looks back at it again, there's no sign of anything there's no indent. The indent's completely gone. So the only thing to conclude is this type 3 has got the ability to apply a force in a way that we can't really explain. There's no black shadow. It's not having to use concentrated electrons. It is somehow applying a force without any visible component whatsoever. Now, obviously, it'd be nice to see this same scene again, but in the infrared, to see whether that showed anything. But this is a mystery to me, is without incurring higher dimensional physics, which I will go through in the next episode, is without incurring higher dimensional physics, this would be very difficult to do. So these type 2 orbs, they can apply a force to anything, as we've seen. So they can push, they can manipulate, they can tug. And this lady here, different lady, I hasten to add, it's just demonstrated that her blinds can only be manually adjusted. There's no motor, there's no other mechanism. And the type 2 is showing a fantastic ability to coordinate the pulling or pushing those 4 different blinds nearly at the same time. So they close. I've got this slowed right down. And so it's almost simultaneously applying pressure or tension to 4 different rods to close these blinds. Very sophisticated work. And if I just take it back to the beginning of that slow-mo, if you look at just when I go onto the slow-mo, right, look at the reflection in the 2 middle panels, okay? You'll see it just go momentarily darker before they actually start to close. It's easier to see in the next one. So look at it goes slightly darker. Do you see? Just those 2 middle ones, because the glass goes a bit darker and then the blinds get shut. So very interesting that the type 2 has these sort of like, you've got one ball, but somehow it's able to pull at 4 different things, which I find very, very clever. All right. Next one. Okay, the ability to grab and tug. So again, this is a type 3 orb. It's in its little dark cloud. It's got this gentleman here and is pulling along by his foot. Okay, scary stuff. But this is also science. It's doing this somehow. Let's just play that again. So it's just being dragged, scared out of his mind, being dragged down there. And then the type 2 lets him go, disappears in a puff of concentrated electrons, and he's able to escape. This is my favorite. So again, we've got this young girl who's in a hostel somewhere. The thing on the floor, I think, is a towel, and she's just washing her face. And if I was her, I wouldn't use that towel either. So she may be making her way to dry her hands, and then she gets shoved. Okay, she gets pushed. It's a very difficult thing to stage the way she was pushed. Okay, not saying it's impossible, but it looks pretty real. So I've slowed this right down. Now, if you notice there's this black, dark kind of shading here, and it kind of goes up behind her and shoves her. I'd love to know whether she felt it, whether she was shoved with 2 hands or 1, or whether it felt like a hand or not. Be interested to know, because again, the type 3 orb can mimic anything. So it could mimic 2 hands pushing somebody, or it could just mimic just a bar pushing somebody. So I'll play that again because it's such a good video. I'm sorry for the poor girl who took it quite well, because if that was me, I think I would have freaked out altogether. So the mimicry here does look a bit like a silhouette of a person, but again, it's probably deliberate, just to sort of help the type 3 mimic something that people would find familiar and scary. This is a video that really captures something very strange that a type 3 orb can do, and that's to produce physical objects from scratch. So, or pull it back from another dimension. It's not clear to me exactly how it's doing it, but what is fact is it can recreate physical objects that then persist. Now, this shopkeeper, she had about 1,000 white plastic web light bulbs made up for Halloween, and she was disturbed how these things kept moving around and seemed possessed, so she got rid of them all. And then soon after, she came back back into the shop one day and saw this white plastic bowl sitting on the sofa, and she knew she'd throw them all away, so she's a bit mystified. And she played back the security video, and she saw this. This is only a small section of the security video. So this bowl just materialized from this kind of plane of existence where the picture is. Okay, so it was like just created out of thin air. Now, it may have just been passing from one dimension into ours, which is probably more likely, but from our eyes, it literally is generated out of thin air. And so it comes from there. And again, if I watch this slowly, you can actually see the dark cloud emerge just before it appears, and as it comes out, it actually moves the canvas on the painting just a little bit, just because of the difference in air pressure, probably as it comes flying out, just moves that painting a little bit. But I find this astounding that you've got this type 3 orb that can mimic other things, it can pull things out of other dimensions, or it can create physical objects from nothing. It's mind-boggling. And again, more science is more research is investigated. Lots of clues how these things work, but again, you kind of need more data. I'd want to see this being done in infrared or in ultraviolet light. I'd want to have electrical sensors all over the place in this area to see if electrical fields were doing things strange, anything that would support this object coming in from another dimension, or if there's anything to support this matter being spontaneously created. So that really wraps up for today's video. I hope you've found it interesting. One of the things that you might be wondering is why now? Why is all this coming out now? Why are we inching towards disclosure? Why does the whole situation with UFOs seem to be getting more common? Why are more sightings happening? Well, there's a number of reasons. We are putting more and more things into low Earth orbit and space, satellites, rockets, military, commercial, communication. All these things are being monitored by this defense system, this alien AI defense system. So they are quite possibly having to produce more type 1s, more type 2s to keep on top of the more and more objects flying around, orbiting Earth, flying around in the atmosphere. So they've got their work cut out. And as we rapidly increase the number of satellites in space, so therefore their operations are probably having to be ramped up. So that could account for a genuine increase of the number of sightings as well. And hopefully in the next few months, as disclosure finally and gradually happens, we're going to learn more and more and more, and the stigma is going to recede, and we can have proper conversations with proper scientists and start researching these things, find out why. Now, thanks again for watching this. If you're interested in this sort of thing, then please like and subscribe. My next episode is going to be taking a deep dive into the technology, how all these things work, and where we need more answers. Okay, so deep dive into how these things are actually working, what they're made from, and how do they do the things they do using the physics that we already know that exist. Right, thank you again. Until next time, goodbye.